The best way to ensure that you have an interesting newspaper story is to make sure that you start off with a strong angle, and that's what we're going to talk about in this lecture. So for our target for angle, at one level, we're basically saying that you can find story angles that are specific to the topic, and we'll talk about what I mean by specific. At the 2 level, they feature one of the 3 markers of a good angle. And the 3 level, they feature 2 of the markers of a good angle, and we'll talk about what those are. And at the 4 level, they feature all 3 markers of a good angle. So some terms for you to know, first off, probably be good to know what I mean by angle. There is a difference between the topic of your article and the angle of your article. The topic is simply the subject, as in you're writing about soccer or NHS or Mrs. Brayman's classes. Notice there's not a lot of description here, it is just the subject. The angle is a bit more, though. It is the specific focus on the topic. In other words, what you're going to say about your subject. In other words, for soccer, it could be the senior injury curse in soccer. Or, and I don't think this is a thing anymore, but for a few years, we had a senior who got hurt and couldn't play, and that was the topic of an article, or the angle of the article. For NHS, it's not just NHS, but it could be that NHS expectations are changing. For Mrs. Brayman's classes, it could be that her classes are self-paced, much more specific, and that's your one level that you can at least hit that level of being specific, a true angle, if you will. Now there are 3 angle rules to consider, and this is what will earn you either a 2, 3, or 4. A 2, you get 1 of these, a 3, you get 2 of these, and a 4, you get all 3. One of the rules is that your angle is unusual. So you might ask yourself as you're looking for your angle to write about, is it unique to this week or month or year? Is it unique among other students? Is it a change from previous years? And that will be probably the easiest one to identify and what people are most interested in, changes from previous years. People like to know about that. As far as conflict goes, is there competition? Any sporting event is inherently going to have that. Is there disagreement, maybe about rule changes, or maybe students are having disagreements about SAT practice, I don't know. Is there a challenge that must be overcome? Is a student tackling a particularly tough event and is willing to talk about it? So that's conflict, the second angle rule. And then the third is it identifiable? Will other people relate, connect? Will they cheer for the person or people involved? Does the subject represent other people or not? Now, this is not to say that everything has to be easy to understand, right? If we're looking for unusual up here, we might find that a student has a hobby of rifle shooting and they're target shooting and they're competing rather than just doing it for fun or going out to hunt deer. So that might be what they do. Maybe they're the only person in the school who does it. In that sense, they're very unique. But then we can ask ourselves down here for identifiable, will people care about that? Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people are familiar with hunting and with rifle use here, so certainly they'll care about it. Just because it's unique doesn't mean that it can't also be identifiable. Now, how to find angles is important, right? Because you might not know everything that's going on in the school, it's going to be very important for you to talk to other people. The official journalistic term for that is beats, who are in the know to find your angles. So if you know that you want to write a story about soccer, figure out who you should be talking to. The players themselves, the coaches, would probably be the best place to start. But not just any player. You probably don't want to talk to someone who is a first-year player. If you're writing about the longevity of the program, you're going to want to talk to people who have been in it a while, your seniors. You can also survey large groups of people to find out what is interesting to them. So if you don't know what to write about in any given week, go talk to people, and not just your friends, but ask them, hey, what's new? What's going on in the school? What's interesting to you in school right now? What are your friends talking about? And take that inspiration and turn it into an article. You can read current news and other student publications to see what's hot. If you just Google high school newspapers, you will find other schools' papers. And you can take a look and see what kinds of things they're writing about to get some inspiration for your own. Of course, take a look at the current Michigan and world news, too. You never know what's out there that might actually be impacting you and your fellow classmates, and you can get your classmates' opinions on that. And listen to students. Even if you're not directly talking to them, what are they talking about? What are your friends talking about at lunch? What's the next table over talking about? That can be fodder for a good article too. Again, angles are very important to a quality story. Make sure that you start with an interesting angle to make sure that your article will be worth reading for the student body.